Hey there, YouTube. This is KSuper87 again. Today we are here with part 3 of the Lancer Frog video, understanding Lancer Frogs. And today we're going to be talking about Sea Lancer. As I've talked about Swap Frog in depth and I've talked about the actual entire Frog engine, we now get on to what that Frog engine will accomplish for you. Outside of, rank 2 exeasing and the stuff I've already discussed. So going down the list, we have the first line of effect. We have you can target any number of your banished fish, sea serpent, and aqua type monsters and equip them to this card. This effect is a spell speed 1 ignition effect that equips all of your, more or less, mostly your frogs to Sea Lancer. But he can also target things like Slushy and Poseidra, but we'll get into that in another video. Whatever choices you choose, you equip them all at once. You don't equip them one at a time. So it can be 1 or 5 if you need to, as long as you have the open spots available. I mean, you can't choose 5 if you have 4, if you have only 4 spots available. And make a note that when they're equipped, they count as equipped spells and dodge Dimensional Fissure in the same way Inzektor equips do, in the way that they are spells and not monsters, and they will not be banished if sent to the graveyard. And that effect is pretty self-explanatory, so we'll move on. Second part, this effect can only be used once while this card is face up on the field. If a Sea Lancer would be negated after it tries to activate with an Effect Veiler or the like, you can't activate it again unless you return to the hand or flip it down and back face up. It means that you only have, they're like the original wind-ups, where you can only activate them once while on the field. And that goes for Sea Lancer. See, this is one of the main reasons you use the Swap Frog shield technique, where you have Swap Frog on the field next to Sea Lancer. And then if they have Veiler or Fiendish Chain or Breakthrough Skill or whatever, then Sea Lancer will be stuck on the field and you can't activate the effect again, so he's useless. So you bounce him to your hand in order to get another try. That's just the limitation, so we'll just move on to part 3. If this face-up card on the field would be destroyed, you can destroy one of those cards instead. And the destroy one of those cards refers to, again, the equips that we was talking about in the first effect. Make note that this is a continuous effect. It does not activate. So anything that would try to negate effects, like negate an activation, it can't work here. It's a continuous effect that destroys one of the equips instead of Sea Lancer. And this is by battle or by a card effect. If it says destroy, then Sea Lancer can protect himself. Now, the equips themselves do not need to go to the graveyard for Sea Lancer, but Dupe Frog and Poison Draw Frog do need to go to the graveyard for their own effects. So, like if a Macrocosmos is up, I've had to deal with this sometimes, you can still equip and have a Sea Lancer that's hard to kill. You just won't get any benefits from the equip cards. There's some other things about this effect I can get into, but I'll go into there at the end because I have a whole list of rulings to get to. So we'll move on to the last part. This card gains 1,000 attack while equipped with a monster or monsters by this effect. Now, one of the things that people always do when they read my Sea Lancer, like opponents, is they always assume that it's 1,000 for each, and that's wrong. It's 1,000, period. No matter how many frogs you have equipped, 1 or 5, it's 1,000. It's one instance of 1,000 attack. And he keeps that boost as long as 1 equip remains. As soon as he hits 0, then the boost goes down. He returns back to 1,300. Now, there is a bunch of important rulings you need to know about Sea Lancer, as I've pretty much gone through the simple effect. So we'll go on we'll list them all down. First one I got is Sea Lancer versus Effect Veiler, Fiendish Chain, Forbidden Chalice, or Skill Drain. And this is those kind of effects after you equip. So you have a Sea Lancer on the field that's already equipped, and your opponent uses one of these things on there. When Sea Lancer's effects are negated, equipped frogs are sent to the graveyard. You do get their effects. This is because Sea Lancer's own effect is the thing that's keeping them equipped to him. So as soon as that fades, they go. Sea Lancer versus. One second. Okay, never mind. There's one here that said wrong, so I'm just deleting that. Okay, next one. Sea Lancer versus big field nukes. Things like Black Rose Dragon or Judgment Dragon. Things that destroy your entire field. Since all cards on the field are destroyed simultaneously, you cannot use Sea Lancer's effect as the frogs are being destroyed too. You still obtain the frog's effects. It just means like both your frogs and Sea Lancer are being targeted. You cannot send a Sea Lancer. You cannot send a frog instead, as that frog is also being destroyed. Next one: Sea Lancer versus compulsory evacuation device, dimensional prison, anything that doesn't destroy and then bounces or banishes. As long as the card that removed the Lancer is at chain link 1, the frogs will get their effects. So if your opponent just does compulsory evacuation device when you attack or something like that, and he's equipped, then as long as nothing else happens and Sea Lancer going to the grave is the last thing that happens, it'll work. Next one. The Sea Lancer versus Ally Justice Catastor. This is one that actually has come up a lot more since Mermails have come back. So it's a good one to know. When Sea Lancer battles Ally Justice Catastor, his effect will activate. Lancer will be destroyed before the damage calculation, and then he can use his effect to protect himself and send a frog to the grave. The battle will then continue to the damage step as Catastor is activated and successfully done his effect. And if Lancer is still equipped with a frog, he will kill Catastor and gives 100 damage, as Sea Lancer will be stronger than Catastor. It's like Catastor will activate and destroy it, but Sea Lancer is still there, so battle continues. Next one. Issues with timing. If Sea Lancer uses a tribute, a synchro, an XYZ material, frogs will miss their timing since the last thing that occurred was the summoning and not Sea Lancer being sent to the graveyard. You will not get their effects. Against Raikou, Soul Taker, anything that does something after the target is destroyed, frogs will miss their timing. Last thing occurred was the mill or life point gain or whatever that. Swap Frog's bounce, like I've discussed with Swap Frog himself. Last thing to recur was Swap Frog's effect resolving, because the bounce was the cost, and you also miss timing. But it isn't, even if you have one equipped and you miss it, sometimes it's worth doing. One of the things I haven't discussed yet, or I don't remember discussing, is that Dupe Frog and Poison Draw Frog, if they get sent to the graveyard at the same time, versus something like Heavy Storm or Sea Lancer getting compulsed and all the monsters go to all the targets go to the grave, they do not have any issues of missing timing with each other. You can activate all the frogs. As long as the timing for all the frogs going to the grave at the same time is good, as long as basically the chain link 1 effect sent the Sea Lancer to the grave, then you can, or the frogs to the grave, then you can activate them due to simultaneous effects go on chain, or otherwise known as SEGOC SEGOC. Last one I have is Sea Lancer and Gachi Gachi Gentetsu versus Light and Darkness Dragon and Evil Zardoka. And that's Lancer's effect, as in Gachi's, are continuous effects, like I mentioned, meaning they do not start a chain. When they protect themselves, Doka and Lad cannot chain since there's no chain to respond to. And that is the last one I have. So that is that. Like I said before, next time I'll be discussing Slushy and Sea Lancer. And Sea Lancer can be kind of, Slushy and Poseidra. And I was going to add that Sea Lancer can be kind of confusing. And if you don't understand all these rulings, post a comment. I'll try to answer as best as I can or point you in a direction where you can get a good answer. But let me know. This is Chaos Reaper 87 out.